The governor's speech to the joint session was 25 pages long and contained many specific recommendations, particularly for constitutional amendments.
The governor's committee report on public education is so inclusive, and it is so controversial in some aspects, that my recommendation at this time is that you give it immediate further study, especially in the proper committees of the House and of the Senate. I believe the minimum attendance figure for a school district has been set too high for practical purposes, at least. I believe they've been set too high, at least for any hope of early agreement by the legislature and by the people of this state. I recommend that you submit an amendment to this section, providing that the legislature may set by statute a minimum voting age lower than 21 and not lower than 18 if it desires to do so. While it may sound strange to speak of spending and economy in the same breath, this is what we must do. We must spend, but only within the bounds of true economy. True economy means financing necessary programs adequately, but not bountifully, and certainly not wastefully. This, then, will be our hardest decision: to determine and to follow the course of true economy, not that of false economy or of reckless spending.
This is Travis Lynn, Channel 8 News.
As far as I'm concerned, it's very premature. I'm interested in traveling around the country because I'm being asked to, and I found it tremendously stimulating and enjoyable in the campaign to do so. But we've got a job of work to be done in this country between now and 1968. And until that is done, or until that job is attempted by the new administration and by those of us in the opposition, the country has no way of laying the basis to decide what the political directions ought to be 4 years from now. November 5th didn't eliminate any problems. It just eliminated the vice president and myself. The problems still exist. I think happily there has settled down over the country a mood of quiet reflection. That too hasn't eliminated any problems. But at least it has eliminated a lot of the shouting, so that we can be doing a little thinking, so that we can begin to, in President Nixon's words, listen to the words as well as the voices of other Americans.
The issue of support for the Tarrant County Juvenile Department continues to occupy many minds and high places tonight in Fort Worth. Yesterday, as I reported, Judge Walter Jordan of the Tarrant County Juvenile Board issued a statement in which he supported Chief Juvenile Probation Officer Lynn Ross in the manner in which he is operating his department. Today, Dr. David J. Muller, staff psychologist at John Peter Smith Hospital and a representative of the Crisis in the Nation group, one of the active citizens groups which has worked toward improving foster homes in the area, countered Judge Jordan's statement by saying that he felt that many studies over the past 2 years had been critical of the operation by Ross of the Juvenile Probation Department. Dr. Muller calls for improvement of the foster home program and invited Judge Jordan to meet with the crisis group over what they called their mutual concern for children. Another development in the Juvenile Department issue was this afternoon's secret session of the Juvenile Board, a meeting which we anticipated 26 hours in advance and indeed speculated on in this report last night. The board, with 2 members absent, did meet this afternoon, but elected to wait until tomorrow to state its position in regard to Lynn Ross and his department. Such a delay in issuing a position statement makes it obvious that the unanimous support for Ross, which most observers had anticipated, obviously was not forthcoming. This is Jerry Taff in Fort Worth for Channel 8 News.
Carl, this is true in every city or every metropolitan area that's booming, that's bursting at the seams. Dallas is growing fast. Where you have this, you have people have money to begin with. 2, it's easy for a hijacker or anybody else to hide in a city that's growing. 3, your police are insufficient and your courts are insufficient. In any city, they never keep up with the growth of a booming city. Now, this isn't true in places that are losing population. State of Texas, you have a lot of counties and cities that are losing population that still have too many courts and too many police officers. But Dallas and Houston and other metropolitan areas of that kind, they do attract the criminal.
Now, last night, City Councilman Charles Cullum said on Channel 8 News that the city would get tougher on crime, and he included the district attorney's office. How are you going to get tougher? What do you plan to do?
Well, our biggest problem here is the lack of sufficient court facilities. As you know, last year we tried more jury trials than Harris and Tarrant and Bexar County combined, with half as many courts as they have. We had almost 500 jury trials in felony cases. We hope to have more this year, but we're going to have to be selective and attempt to try those that are most pressing. We've had a rash of robberies and robbery killings here in the last 60 days that will receive precedence over everything else in the office until we get those tried. We are trying a case right now where we're asking death penalty on a mad murder case. The Supreme Court has practically abolished the death penalty, but in all of these murder hijackings of the officers involved, we plan, of course, to ask the death penalty in those cases.
Now, your office complained a number of years ago that the police weren't doing enough job of collecting evidence. Has this, you were getting troubles of getting convictions then, has this cleared up any, or is it still?
Well, I don't know who complained about it. I didn't complain about it. It's a continual problem of getting sufficient qualified police officers over the county to handle the great increase in volume. I think they're undermanned, and some of them are undertrained and underprepared for the job. But by and large, I think we have pretty.
Well, it seems to me that traditionally that every area, but Texas along with that, has emphasized what percent of our students are going to college, and we really have neglected to properly train about 4/5 of our students. Only 4 out of 5, 1 out of 5 persons hold a college degree that are working today. To me, the most important thing that we must do, other than law enforcement, but getting from a domestic standpoint our people ready to be taxpayers, is to train everyone to do something that needs to be done. I would hope that our public schools and our public itself would see that on a local level the training is adequate across the board, and that every student, whether they're going to go to college or not, are taught how to do those things that need to be done, and we would quit worrying as much as we have and be proud, of course, of those who go to college, but not to emphasize only what percent is going to college, and train everyone to do something that they can do and that needs to be done.
Yesterday afternoon, following a series of conversations with Tarrant County officials, I issued the speculative opinion that the Tarrant County Juvenile Board would follow the lead of its co-member, Judge Walter Jordan, in issuing a supporting statement for Chief Juvenile Probation Officer Lynn Ross of Tarrant County. I said yesterday that a secret session would be held sometime in the near future. It was held this afternoon. It has just concluded. Judge Scott Moore, the chairman of the Juvenile Board, has issued a statement saying only that he will issue a statement tomorrow morning. Apparently, discord has caused this. Otherwise, it would seem unlikely that the board would need to prepare a statement, thus apparently pondering its